Hey, what's up? I'm Rafael the Furia, aka Rafi D is me, and I am back at it again on another beautiful Friday night. And this Friday night, I wanted to talk about a subject that I know a lot of people are quite curious about, and a subject which I am still planning on doing more videos about. The problem is with the €1, the $1 houses in Sicily, in Italy, wherever you may be going in the country, these $1 homes, for me to be able to make content about it the way that I would like to do it, I would love to be able to go to these places to talk to contractors or companies that are involved with actually redoing these homes. The problem is that it's so far away from where I live that making that all happen logistically and financially is just not possible at this moment. If you are a part of one of these companies, these development companies, or if you're a contractor who's interested in talking on camera about this and talking about what you're doing, let me know. Feel free to get in contact. My information is down below. I really do think that it is a project that is wonderful. I do think, or many various projects that are wonderful, and I do think that there are people who are very interested in it, which is why I would love to show more about it. But for me personally, I would say these projects, they just aren't quite the right fit for me and who I am. And most of the videos that you find out there are the news stories talking about these people living this wonderful life in this wonderful place doing this wonderful thing, which I think is actually great. I think it's fantastic to be showing how great it can be. But for those of you who aren't quite sure whether you really are interested in doing it or not, as somebody who's living here in Italy, I wanted to share why I personally wouldn't be interested in a project like one of these €1 homes. But before we get too much deeper into the video, if you would like to see more content like this about moving to Italy, Italian dual citizenship, and living life abroad, please be sure to subscribe with that notification bell turned on. And if you could also give this video a like, it would be greatly appreciated as it does help out the channel. And for those of you who watch my videos regularly, I have a question for you guys that will be at the end of the video, just because I'm starting to get close to that 10,000 subscriber mark, and I'm thinking, I should do something special with you guys. I'm brainstorming and trying to think of things. So we'll get back to that at the end of the video. And again, I'm not saying to do it and I'm not saying not to do it. This is just a video with why I personally am not into the idea. So the biggest reason why I would not take part in one of these projects right now is just because financially I'm not there. But the reason why I'm making this video is that if I were in a financial position to do this, if I were at that point in my life where I could purchase a home or where I could make a large financial commitment like that, these would be the reasons why I wouldn't do it. So just to get that out of the way, I'm not somebody who is in the market to begin with. But if I were, most of the locations for these projects, if not all, are in remote areas which aren't always the easiest to get to. Many of them may not have public transportation to get there, and a car would be necessary, which for many of you would not be an issue. But for me, I'm at a point in my life where I'm totally okay not to have a car and actually don't really even want one to begin with. And I've chosen an area to live in where I have access to a good train station on a high speed line where I can get to a lot of different places. And also, I live not too far away from a couple of major airports. So if I do need to get anywhere as a young professional, this makes it possible for me to do. Even though I live in a small town in the Veneto region, I can still get to Rome in about 3 hours. I can get to Venice in an hour and a half. I can get to Bologna in less than an hour. Milan, Naples, Palermo, wherever it may be in the country, if I need, or if I would need to go to a different country, then going to the airport in Bologna or Venice is quite easy for me to do. And all without a car. And in the town that I live in, I can just walk to the stores locally. But this is something that you will find in some of these smaller villages, that you will be able to walk around these villages and towns and to be able to get your grocery shopping done. But there might be a town or two that might not have some of these things available, and you might have to go to the next town over. Some of these places are very, very small. And for me, I like to be able to go out to at least have the option to go to a cafe or to go eat with a friend or something like that. Even if I don't do it so often, it's nice to at least have that possible. Nice to have the option to do it close to where I live within walking distance rather than having to think about, okay, I got to go someplace else. If you're coming from the States, this is part of the normal grind, like you drive to where you go. Or very often that seems to be the case. Not for everybody, but for a lot of people. But getting back into the financial side of things, yes, these homes very often will just cost €1, one single euro, and that's it. But there is a reason why these homes don't move. There is a reason why a lot of these homes have become empty and are just practically being given away. And that's because people have left these places. It's because people have not been able to get jobs in these places. It's because the people who were there maybe came to a realization that it wasn't the appropriate place for them. So you need to start looking into the reasons why that maybe these places are starting to become ghost towns, or at least are losing their population or having an aging population without people that are being born into the town to revitalize it. And from what I've looked into, most of these places aren't currently livable. They need work. And some places it may be just a few thousand euros. Some places it may be tens of thousands of euros. And if you go to a different part of the country, even for example, the town that I live in, say for example, you needed to put 30K into one of these houses down in one of these towns offering a scheme like the €1 houses, you could purchase a home that would be roughly the same price as a €1 home, but you could move into it immediately. It may not be perfect. It may not be the most glamorous, but it is a home that you could move into right away. Even for example, in the town where I live, I know of somebody who just purchased a home here for 30,000 euros. Actually, sorry, an apartment, I should say. A 2-bedroom apartment, practically in the center of town, a 2-minute walk to get to the actual heart of the center. But like nice quiet neighborhood, a good part of town, not that there's really even a bad part of where I live necessarily, but that you can go to other places just outside of a major city center and get these homes, even in the countryside or in a town like where I live, a small city, where you do have like these train lines and access to things, and not be out in the middle of nowhere. You really have to, if you're taking part in one of these €1 schemes, you have to be the type of person who's really looking to get away from it all, to really get out and live a small town life, a village life. And for some of us who are from the States who have lived in small towns, it may be a bit different than what we're used to. You're thinking maybe, okay, I'm going from one small town to another. It's not the same. Because even consider something that I've spoken about in previous videos of mine is that wherever you go, it doesn't matter where on earth you are. Very often people who are a part of the inside crowd are not so welcoming to the outsiders. And especially having lived in a lot of different small towns myself, people from these areas seem to very often not be so welcoming or open to outsiders. Maybe they'll be to an extent, but I know I have definitely lived in areas, but even in Italy, like where I lived before in a smaller area, where just if you're not from there, they don't want anything to do with you. You're not one of them. They don't want you to be one of them. That's something maybe particular to the specific area where I was, just because of the cultural influence of Alto Adige and how Italy took it over. So that's a different story for a different day. I did make a video touching on this subject in the past, my tour around Bolzano. And in general in Italy, it can be quite difficult as an outsider to break into a social circle. Italians usually have a group of friends that they've known for most of their lives, not always, but very often it'll be a group of people who they've known for a significant amount of time, at least maybe since university. And in contrast with a lot of Americans who will move every few years, in Italy it's very uncommon to be moving around so much. Most people, they might go someplace for university, and then the next place where they land, if they don't stay in the town where they studied, the next place will kind of be it. Or if they get married to someone and decide to move to their town or city, whatever, then they'll stay there, will probably be it. Or if they have a job, then that will probably be the place where they end up. Italians keep jobs and apartments for much longer term than what many Americans would even consider. But again, if you're moving to one of these €1 houses, those type of opportunities for a job or work to begin with might not really be there. So you would need to, if you're somebody who's retired and you have that monthly income coming in, then great, that's fantastic. Maybe it could be right for you. But if you are somebody maybe who works online, then there are other things to take into account. Internet. Does the place where you're moving to have access to internet? And if so, what kind? Is it DSL, dial-up, cable, fiber? Although in these €1 towns, I would be surprised if fiber were a thing, but I'd be happy to be proven wrong about that. But in the town where I live, for example, this €30,000 apartment that I was talking about is in a part of town where I'm 99% sure where they do have fiber. If not, they at least have some pretty solid internet. So you could take that same tens of thousands that you might spend on renovating a place and buy a place, again, that's move-in ready and livable from the get-go, rather than with one of these projects. You don't know how long the renovations are going to take. You may not know all of the problems with the property until they start working on it. And because a lot of these properties are quite old and really aging, they will often need quite a bit of work. And a lot of places I've heard about need structural work, have to be completely gutted and completely redone. And just, it's a whole huge project. So you don't know how long that will take. So if you're looking to move to Italy right away, then you're going to probably have to rent an apartment while you're managing the project. But if you own property in Italy, that doesn't guarantee you the right to be able to stay here. But if you're somebody who's gotten Italian citizenship by descent and returning to Italy, or maybe I should say returning to Italy, then you will have the ability to stay here without restrictions and just remain here. Or if you're from an EU member state, then you also won't have any issues. But I know a lot of people who are interested in these types of projects are not EU citizens already, so that's something to take into consideration. How long can you actually stay in your property that you've purchased? If you're planning to live here, you will need to be able to make sure that you can remain here. But being able to remain here, owning a property or renting a property, that may be part of what allows you to even come here. And that will only guarantee you a set period of time to be able to remain here, after which you would need to, of course, renew your permission of stay to be able to remain in the country. Or the other option is that if you are planning on staying abroad, then you will need somebody to manage this project for you. And are you willing to put this in someone's hands? Are you trusting enough to be able to do that? One of the other things that can happen in some of these projects is that sometimes you will be required to use a city or village approved contractor. I'm not wanting to get into stereotypes or anything, but I just can't help but think if you have to use their guide that, like, what is there something going on? Like, I'm going to just leave it there. But this would be actually, I would say, the same for anywhere in the world, that if you can only use their guy, then what's going on in the background? But when you use one of these contractors, you will have to stick with them. And so you have to be able to know that you can trust their work. You don't know the quality of the work necessarily beforehand. Maybe they might be able to take you to a place that they have done before. In some places, I know this is an option where you can go see like not a model home per se, but a place that they've already done that you can check out. It may not be in every town that you have to use their guy, but in the places that I've seen, it seems as though you have to use with their approved contractor. But also in this sort of situation as well, if you're going to be out in a more remote location, this could add to the time of how long this project could take in total. For example, building materials. Is it going to be difficult for them to get the building materials there? Are you going to have to pay extra because of how far out that you are? Or even just with being out in general, in Sicily, for example, a lot of villages to begin with are remote. In Italy in general, this is just Europe. This is how it goes. A lot of these places are kind of out in the middle of nowhere, like when we're talking about a village in Europe. A town, nobody really uses the word town. Everybody uses more kind of village. You may have less access to certain things, as I've been saying. Even, for example, maybe cellular reception. If that's important to you and getting work done, then that could be an issue. Even where I've lived in Italy, I wouldn't say that they're tiny cities, but smaller cities, that I've had places even in my own home where I just don't have a cellular signal. Actually, in the last place that I lived in before moving here to Veneto, you could even look on the cellular map, and it just so happened my block was a dead zone for the town. So I would get into bed. Oh, okay, yeah. That's it. I guess I'm off the internet for the rest of the night. So if you are somebody who does live online or needs to be online for whatever reason, that could be difficult for you if you don't have the ability to get a hardwired connection. I even know of someone who lives in a town, but because she lived just outside of the kind of main part of the town, she wasn't able to get like a normal even DSL line, and it took a year. I don't know if they even ended up getting a normal internet line, and they just had to use a pocket Wi-Fi for a long time. And those can be quite limiting. Something that could be a little bit more limiting is that not even just internet, but water. In Sicily, it is not uncommon that they have issues with water, that they have a lack of water, or water gets shut off during certain times of day, or that I'm not going to go into that in this video because I don't understand fully how everything works there, but it seems as though everybody has a cistern or something, and you have to make sure that your water cistern gets filled. And I don't know exactly the whole thing, but even when I was there, I did experience in Corleone a lack of water at certain points. So I went to go take a shower, and I was like, it seemed as though the water was shut off. But when I was in Palermo, a larger kind of city area, I had no issues at all. Everything was normal. Also, you could have issues with, for example, if you order a lot online. To get a shipment out to a smaller area may be more difficult. I know on some websites when you're ordering here in Italy that they say if you're living in Calabria or Puglia, add 1 extra day to the shipping time, or if you live in Sicily, add 2 days to the shipping. On a place like Amazon, you may have difficulties as well. Not necessarily difficulties, but delays, I should say. Getting things shipped in Italy to begin with it's getting better from what I've heard, but as somebody who's come at this stage in time, I can say that it can be shocking how long it can take for something to get to a place. But I also have had some really good experiences with the postal system here. So a little bit of a mixed bag. One thing I would also be concerned about with moving to one of these places that you can't really stay there for an extended period of time before making a purchase. Maybe you might be able to in some places, but a lot of places might not even have a B&B or an Airbnb, let alone a hotel. As I've said in videos before, as was a recommendation from a friend, that before you purchase in a place, that before you do so, you should at least live there for a couple of years. And so what happens if you invest heavily or even moderately into one of these €1 projects, and you've spent all of this time and money to get the place ready so that you can move in, and then a couple years down the road, we could be talking about 5 years from the day that you signed everything, and you've only been living there maybe 2 or 3 years, 4 years, however the project goes. What if you end up not liking it there? If you would like to turn around and sell your property, and if I'm not mistaken, in a lot of these places, you do have to agree not to resell the place for X amount of years. But say you've reached that amount of time, will you be able to sell the place? There are reasons, like I mentioned earlier in the video, there are reasons why a lot of these places have just been unable to sell. Yes, a lot of these places have been unable to sell because they need a lot of work. But even for a place that doesn't need work, you might still have a pretty tricky time to be able to sell it. Even where I live, you can buy a decent apartment that's 2 bedrooms for around 30 grand. 2-bedroom apartment, decent size, good part of town, close to the center, and lots to do. Because even in a place like this, properties aren't moving all that fast. Maybe in a city, they might be moving a bit faster. And that's because there's a lot more demand. But of course, a lot of people, if you're considering a €1 home, you're not considering moving to a city because you're wanting to move out to the country. But if you're looking for a property that's worthwhile investing into, to turn around and flip or to make a profit on, a city might be a better option for you. I'm not a real estate agent or a real estate expert, but just as a normal average dude, that would be my gut instinct, especially with seeing how slow some of these properties are moving. And by the way, this property that I keep referring to, if I'm not mistaken, the original asking price was like close to 50,000, maybe like 45, 46,000 or so. So They just negotiated right down. They wanted this place gone. Again, though, I do think that these €1 houses are very interesting and a very worthwhile project for the people who are really into everything that would encompass that whole lifestyle and that choice to make. Then maybe it might be the appropriate project for you. I'm not telling you you should, but I'm just saying it might be worth looking into if you're the type that really enjoys that type of process. But again, keep in mind that the process could be drawn out a little bit, and it could take a bit of time before you're able to actually move in. Maybe you'll get lucky and maybe not that much work would have to be done, but you never know, because there are so many different options in so many different towns that are even available. I can't say one general thing for everything, that you're going to find this perfect place or you're not going to find this perfect place that's move-in ready. But in general, from what I've heard, most people seem to be saying that they aren't able to get a place that's move-in ready. But there is a wide range of how much work will need to be done. I've heard anything from about, say, $3 to $5 grand all the way up to $50 to $60 grand, because part of it also depends on how you want it redone. Do you want it done just basic, simple, or do you want like luxury? So there are those various aspects to consider. I hope some of what I've had to say has been helpful to those of you thinking about it. Maybe you're completely the opposite of me and you would be looking for those things that I wouldn't personally be looking for. Or maybe you've just started looking into this type of project and you didn't know about that aspect, that some of these places would be a little bit further out. Whatever you do, you need to really do the research and look into the place before making that commitment and before purchasing it, because yes, you do pay that €1 to get in, but that's just the cover charge, so to speak. You also are committing to renovating that home. And yes, I still am planning to do more videos about this subject, but if you have any questions about anything I've spoken about in this video or anything in my other videos, or if you have anything to say at all, this is of course an open conversation, and if you have anything to say or ask, feel free to leave that down in the comment section below. And if you would like to see more content like this about moving to Italy, Italian dual citizenship, and living life abroad, please be sure to subscribe with that notification bell turned on. And if you could also give this video a like and share it with your friends, that would be greatly appreciated. And if you would like to help make more content like this possible on a monthly basis, you can go to rafaeldifuria.com/Patreon, or to help out just one time, you can go to rafaeldifuria.com/support, or for shirts, baby onesies, mugs, and more. Things like posters, for example, with Italy-centric designs, you can go to rafaeldifuria.com/NYAG gear. All of the links are down below. And like I was mentioning at the beginning of the video, I am getting close to that 10,000 subscriber mark. And I'm trying to think of something special that I can do with you guys. I've done on Instagram a couple times, but I've never done it here on YouTube. And I was thinking about maybe doing a live stream when I hit that 10,000 mark, either on the night that I hit the 10,000 subscriber mark, or instead of a regular Friday night upload, maybe that week do a live broadcast. But if you guys have any ideas of something that could be fun, let me know down in the comment section below. And yeah, of course, as always, thank you for joining me on another beautiful Friday night. Of course, as always, I'm Rafael Di Furia, aka Rafi D is me. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend and a great week ahead of you, and I look forward to seeing you all next Friday. Later.